Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Chris Gentry with MSA back for another show. Today, our special guest is Naylor. How you doing,
Hi,
Naylor?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for taking the time. So Naylor is also known as the Lawn Care Rookie and LCR Media. So he's doing a lot of things in the lawn care world, in the podcasting world. And so today we want to talk about those businesses, kind of peel back the onion, if you will, learn how Naylor got started in the lawn care business and his journey through that. And then he's also a YouTuber and now a podcaster for, I would say, quite some time, because you're over that 10 episode
Oh yeah.
mark.
Oh yeah. Yeah, over a year and over 100 episodes. So I've been going strong. It hasn't been easy, like anyone else would tell you in our space anyway. It's some days, some weeks it's hard to get that content out, but it's all about, consistency. That's the biggest thing. And I find it easier for podcasting for me, consistency wise, than like YouTube, for example, because for me, the way I am with YouTube, it's like an art form for me. Like I really like it from a creative standpoint. Like everything is content creation, but for YouTube, like I really like crafting the whole thing. Like I love like thinking of ideas to film, record stuff, maybe getting different angles, use different cameras if I have any, whatever. Um, and that's just half the battle, right? Then you got to go and put it all on a computer and then edit it. And that's what really takes a long time. The more video you have recorded, the longer it takes to edit. Like I don't remember what the formula is, but once upon a time, all the YouTubers knew the formula. It's like 20 minutes of video is like an hour of editing or something crazy like that. It's like this huge thing. So it's very time consuming. So unfortunately, it's harder for me anyway to be consistent with banging out YouTube video after YouTube video, unlike some of my peers and mentors to do a much better job at that. But podcasting was my way to still get good content out there, my opinion, good content, and become more consistent, because I'm just literally recording. I've got the whole setup. I can record what I want to record, either by myself or with guests such as yourself, and then just have Mr. Producer make it all sound great and finalized and give it back to me, and I upload it. So it's a much more condensed process for me with my busy schedule. So yeah, way over the hump with podcasting for sure, but it hasn't come easy.
Well, I've got to interject. You said creative. You said YouTube. I got to look at my note because I heard this. I'm a big podcast consumer, and today I heard this guy say that he had heard this somewhere along the way, that you need three hobbies: one to be creative, one to make you money, and one to keep you in shape.
Huh,
That stuck with me,
that's
and that's
good.
why I wrote it down. Um,
Yeah, I
and
like that.
and I guess you've got all three, right? You've got the lawn care to keep you in shape.
Yeah, and to make money.
Well, and make you money, and then now you
Yeah,
got the YouTube and more importantly, I guess
podcast.
your podcast
Yeah.
to be creative.
Yeah,
All right,
that's funny
so
you said that. It's funny you said that because real quick, just to spin off of that,
yeah,
is lately I've been rethinking about something I heard once upon a time too, about how don't do what you love for a living, because then you'll learn to hate it. Like it'll become a
right,
job,
yep,
right? So like for me, I tell people I like lawn care, but I love creating content. Like creating content, I can do that till 2 in the morning for free. I did for so long, like so many of us that started
right.
before anyone cared about, the value of putting a YouTube video out about products or whatever the deal is. So I mean, I have done it for free till 2 in the morning, and I would continue to do that. And I still work late to do stuff, and early and all that. Like that's the stuff that kind of gets me out of bed, is creating content, going on different trips, going to different live events with the community and my friends and mentors, and creating that content. So yeah, I that is really what I do love. And then the lawn care is what I like it. I enjoy it. It's not, I'm not miserable doing it. I still think you need to do something you enjoy to a certain extent for a living, right? You don't want to be miserable 5 days a week or whatever it is trying to make a living. So, but if you turn your hobby, I think the other thing is, the other way to say it is, if you don't turn your hobby like into like your source of income, because then you'll hate it, it won't be
Right.
your hobby anymore, like, so just different ways to spin all that for sure. Like, keep your hobby, it can be your side hustle, you can make money doing it, and it could actually eventually make a ton of money, right? But don't be like dependent on that for your bills. Like, have your actual some sort of other career or way of source of income that's reoccurring. Like for me, lawn care, like lawn maintenance, it's monthly revenue that I don't really have to worry about. Just do the work and that's it. I don't have to go chase the money and sell jobs and all that, like landscaping and hardscaping. Another reason why I stayed away from that. I'm not a big salesperson, so I just try to stick with that regular income for lawn maintenance, and then I can focus on the hobby, the hobby,
Right.
and just have fun and enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, I know we kind of the cart led the horse here because we
Yeah.
jumped into
Yeah. Well,
the
this gets everybody into it, enticed. Like,
the
how did this all
hey,
start?
yeah. Hey, well, great talk today. Thanks for
Yeah.
viewing.
There
No,
you
but
go.
so how did you get in lawn care? How did that all come about?
Yeah, so I mean, the best summary of it, I've talked about this in length in my podcast, on my YouTube videos. If you go to my YouTube channel at Lawn Care Rookie or LCR, either one of those will bring you to it. There's actually a video, like a 45-minute video or something, like the longest video I think I've ever posted on my YouTube channel way back in the day. And it's just titled My Story, or the day I don't know, something, how lawn care changed my life. I've changed the name a couple times. I don't know what it's called, but it's the main video on my channel. As a new person visiting my channel, it's right there and it starts playing. I have long hair and everything. It's crazy. Not long, like long, long curly hair or whatever. But that explains my whole story in great detail. So in an effort to save 45 minutes of everyone's time here, the best summary is that I was in retail management over 15 years. It was just something I started when I was in college. I didn't intend on having a career in retail management. I just kind of stumbled into it, just working, like I said, in college part-time, and then just kind of worked my way up through the ranks. And I found that I was just kind of a natural born leader, I guess people would tell me. And I can see that now, all these years later, with everything that I've done, even in lawn care. But early on, I was identified in leadership roles, and I just was like, all right, well, I can do this. This is easy enough. I was in college, as a young guy, single, just doing my thing. And then, just got out of college and went all in full time, continued in the management program. So, 15 plus years later, I'm like burned out and married and have kids. And I'm like, where is my life? Like,
Right.
my life was going one way, retail was going another way. Amazon was taking over the world, and all the brick and mortar stores, we call them, are really struggling, trying to find their way to have the whole e-commerce and online and buy something, pick it up at the store. And all this unnecessary stress that was just obviously coming down on everyone working in the stores, aka management, and then we try and trickle it down to the employees. So I got burned out real fast. Well, I guess 15 years took, but I just really needed a change. And on the back end, I was always one of those homeowners that had a really nice lawn, loved, I got my green thumb first time we got our first house, many years before I left retail, which is probably like, if I guess, maybe 15 years ago or something, was when because I've been in lawn care 8 years now. So 15 years ago was probably when we got our first house. And I just got into lawn care as a homeowner, figuring it all out, going to Home Depot, Lowe's, looking at the Scott's bags and trying to read all the things, and okay, apply this time, apply that time, looking at all the different gadgets and gizmos and all the different tools you can get, and just having a good time, just trying to budget everything and learn how to grow grass and keep it weed free and all that, and have my little push mower, 21 inch, and stripe it and all that. And I was the envy of the neighborhood. I had one of the best lawns in our neighborhood. All the moms would ask my wife, like all the housewives would ask my wife for tips for me, for their husbands, and I'm sure they loved that, but it just is what it is. So that's where the whole lawn care thing happened in the background, behind the scenes. And then when I started getting burned out, I just kind of was thinking, what are my options, right? I didn't really know. I didn't know where else to go from retail. I went to college for fine arts, which I guess, fast forward when we get to the social media content creating part, probably that's where that applies. I've always had that artistic mentality, so that really satisfies that craving, especially the videos. the podcast is good with content, but making the YouTube videos really satisfies my artistic
So,
creativity mindset. I didn't really realize that until I started doing it. For so long, it went dormant. Retail management, there's not a whole lot of artisticness. Maybe if I'm resetting, some clothes and new merchandise and lining it up properly and looking at all the beautiful pictures they give us to make it match and putting window display, like that's very minimal, and that wasn't ever really my thing. So,
so 20 years later, it kind of comes full circle, right?
right, yeah, 20 years later, it was just dormant in the back for so long. But but at any rate, so I just um I didn't really know, like I said, where to go. Like I wasn't going to get anything with art, I guess. So I was just like, what am I going to do? So I just tried to double down into lawn care and figure out how I could make that actual profession. And I just quit retail. Well, I did it part-time, lawn care part-time for 1 year with my push mower that I had for my house, and my homeowner trimmer blower and push mower. And I just did that for a year. I had like maybe 6 customers, friends of friends and neighbors, right? The same typical startup story as a lot of lawn guys out there. But then I just quit retail and went all in the following year because I just got so burned out. I couldn't take it. I've said the story so many times, so many people. I don't know if I've shared it with you yet, but my final year in retail, my boss came in and looked at my family, pictures of my family in my office, and looked at me and said, "You have a beautiful family." I'm like, "Thanks." Like what? I'm thinking to myself, where is he going with this? Because he wasn't a nice guy. I really didn't like him at all. He was just really not the best leader or whatever, or at least not in that situation. Not with me. Not my experience with him for the few months that I was there, but whatever. And he just said, you're going to have to choose. You're going to have to choose them or this place because you can't do both.
Yeah.
And then I was just like,
See you later.
yeah, I'm like, you didn't really give me too many options there. I mean, who in their right mind? Meanwhile, I'm like struggling to try and I wanted to leave that place. I wanted to leave retail altogether, but at the same time, I've got a wife and kids in a house, and I'm trying to so I was like literally burning myself out. Like I was coming to like a breaking point where I was about to have like a mental breakdown, and I didn't know how to get out. Didn't know what to do. I need to pay bills and support my family. And then he says that. Then that guy says that. I'm just like, it was like the straw that broke the camel's back. I didn't even say anything. I don't even remember saying anything. He just like got up and left, and I just sat there speechless. Anyway, that was it. That was the catalyst. I was gone. Like shortly after that, I just quit and was like, if I go all in lawn care, I'm sure I can make something of this because it's been a struggle part-time, but like I really enjoyed doing it, like on my 1 day off in between. Like I would literally load my stuff up in the back of my Jeep Compass and bring a change of clothes, and after work change in my office real quick, run down the back door in my Jeep and head out and try and get 1 or 2 lawns done before dark, like especially in the summertime. And I'm like, man, if I had enough time, I could really make good run at this. So I just quit over the winter and just went all in. I had some vacation time that they didn't use that was paid out. Some companies that I've worked for in the past pay that out. Some you have to use it or you lose it. You always knew when somebody was going to quit because all of a sudden they're requesting all this time off. You're like, I think they're going to quit, but this company that I worked for just pays it all out. So I was like, sweet. So I was like a month and a half more of salary basically because I hardly ever got to take time off because you earn so much time, but everything's always a holiday somewhere, they make up. It's like hard to take all the time, and then you're fighting with all the other managers. It's like, wow, it's so much for all this time off. So that helped me get through the winter so I can really build up clientele and figure things out so I can hit the ground running that first spring. And I did with 30 something, went from like 6 people to like 30 something people weekly mowing clients right out the gate. And I was just like going for it. And then I quickly bought a walk behind commercial mower, traded in my Jeep Compass for a Ford F-150, which was used, really old, a lot of miles, but it was in good condition and lasted me 5 years before the engine started leaking and I got rid of it. So it did really good with that. They actually gave me a check after that transaction because the Jeep was worth more. And they were just like, man, you really made a good deal with this here. I was like, thanks. And then I got a trailer, a little 5x10 open trailer. So that was my go-to setup for many years when I first started. And I haven't looked back ever since.
That's awesome. So let's fast forward a little bit. So you're you're in full-time lawn care, you're building your client base, you're doing well, you're generating revenue and growing year over year. At what point, when when you're cutting grass, does the light bulb go off? Go, hey, I'm gonna start doing YouTube. I'm gonna start filming some of this stuff. When does that take?
Yeah, so for me, it happened almost immediately. So
Really?
yeah, so a lot of people in all of my years and all of my stories that I've heard from folks and seen on YouTube, a lot of people start their business because of YouTube. That's a huge common thing. I started my business before YouTube. Then there's obviously people like me that stumble upon YouTube like years into their business, but I literally stumbled upon them both at the same time. Like I mean, I started my business, but like within a year, I did it part-time for a year, didn't know anything about YouTube for that kind of stuff. But then that winter, when I wanted to go full time and go all in, I did a ton of research. I was able to immerse myself in anything and everything that I could to be as successful as possible. I was afraid. I was afraid to fail. You know, my family was dependent on me. My wife also had a full-time job, which I always try to remember to say that when I tell this story, because had she not had a full-time job, I don't know what would have happened, but I would not have been able to just transition like that from a retail management salary, after so many years of being in those positions, a couple different companies. I had a really good salary where literally I paid all the bill, could pay all the bills myself. But then when my wife got a full-time job, that was just like icing on the cake. It was like, all right, cool, now we can like upgrade our life and we can save up for vacations and all that kind of stuff. So so we were like ahead of the game, but we were living, we were making way more than we were living below our means
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
But taking that salary right out the picture would have been catastrophic. So fortunately, she had a full-time job, but she wasn't making what I was making, so she couldn't pay the bills by herself. So I was like, I need to make enough to supplement to get back to at least what I was making between the two of us, so that we can, continue to survive and support our family and everything. So I was just totally immersed. So by quitting retail over the winter and having like 2 months, January, February, really to really go all in, figuring out my logo and business cards, and I changed my shirt colors and uniforms multiple times, but the logo's always been the same. Getting a business license, all that stuff, but doing all this research online. Every time you Google stuff, if there's a video, right, attached to that subject matter, it's going to pull that up. So when I'm like looking up how to prune a crepe myrtle, or how to, trim, boxwood shrubs, or how to price this or that, or any of these kind of things that you think of as when you become a professional. Like I just figured this stuff out when I was a homeowner, and there wasn't even really anything like that on YouTube 15 years,
Yeah.
20 years ago anyway. It's
Yeah.
shocking. It seems like not that long ago, but it was a long time ago in the time frame of social media, right? Like so much has changed in such a short amount of time with technology and social media. So
Seems
there
like
wasn't anything.
seems like Gary V is the only one that stands out. That I mean,
Yeah, he was on it.
yeah, I remember him from way back when, and he was one of the
Yeah.
5 videos you could watch.
Yeah. He knew, but he was on it right away. But I mean, there was nothing for lawn care or anything like that. So as a homeowner, I'm like looking at like books from Lowe's or Home Depot or something, like just doing homeowner stuff. But now, fast forward 8 years ago, there was some decent content coming out. There were some regulars like Spencer's Lawn Care and Keith Kalfis. These guys are still out, still putting content out now. B&B Lawn Care started shortly after that. Top Notch Lawn Care, those guys are still making content. There's a lot of guys that aren't making content anymore that were back then. But they offered a lot of great the Lawn Care Millionaire is still making content. He was one of the first folks out there. So I just stumbled upon some of these videos early on because I was researching stuff that came to those videos. And I was just like immersing myself in those educational videos. And then I started realizing there was like a community there, because there'd be like the same people commenting, in the comments section and all that. And I'm like, wow, this is cool. There's like a little bit of a community here. And I wanted to be a part of that community beyond just commenting and things. So I created my own YouTube channel. I had a YouTube account so I could comment and like and follow these people so I could follow along. But then I quickly, within this first year of my business, wanted to start putting out my own videos, just because I wanted to be able to connect with the community. And also I realized there was stuff Like I was watching this content hoping that they would like make a video about something I was struggling with or something, a question I had, and they just weren't. They were, a lot of them were like far, like the lawn care millionaire was like way far advanced and was
Right.
trying to go backwards and like one crew versus two crew. I'm like, I don't have any crew. Like I'm just a solo
Just
guy.
me.
Like,
Right.
yeah, it's like that. That's like that's cool for down the road. That's
Yeah.
great knowledge. But like, what about the solo guys? So like, I was really looking for the solo guys and trying to figure out, trying to learn from them. But there was
So,
more of a
so
mix of,
you found your own lane, if you will, in
right.
YouTube, that where
Yeah.
you knew that you were answering some of your own questions and problems and sharing that with, the
Right.
community. That's kind of how it took hold and grew from there.
100%. That's why I named it the Lawn Care Rookie, because I was a rookie. I was brand new. I didn't want people to think I was like these other guys that had been doing it for a few years or 20 years in some cases, like, or a millionaire. Like I wanted people to clearly know that I'm a rookie. I'm just making these mistakes or learning new things. Like, hey, look, here's a cool thing I figured out. Maybe this will help you. Or look at this mistake I made and learned how to do it like this, and that'll help you. Or hey, I can't figure this out. Can you guys help me out? Comment below. Like, just really, it was a way to interact with the community and also try and give back any things that I learned. And there was a lot of people in those first couple of years, especially that first year. There was a lot of people that were, for whatever reason, I can't really remember what was going on back in 2014, 2015, where there was a lot of people leaving their full-time jobs to start lawn care, or they were doing it part-time like I was, but they've been doing it for a couple of years as a side hustle, and they wanted to transition out of their corporate job, the corporate America job, their 9 to 5 job, to get into lawn care. So a lot of those guys found me on YouTube because I like connected with them, like they identified with me, related to me perfectly, because I was the one that either did what they want to do or are doing or did or whatever. Like I left corporate America and went into lawn care full time. So I had a huge connection there. I had hundreds of people that were just following me at the time just for that. And I met some of them at like the GIE Expo, which is a huge trade show every year in Louisville, Kentucky. A couple years after I started YouTube and my business, I went there and met a bunch of people, and people were shaking my hand, thanking me, for offering all of this, the sharing my story and giving uplifting, advice and helping people apparently transition like I did. And I had no idea. Like I'm just
That,
like
that's
making
gotta,
sure,
yeah,
you
that's got to
know.
be a great feeling.
Well, I mean, what it did was, it just, I mean, it was a great feeling. I was definitely grateful, and humbled by that. But really, what it did was just made me realize like the importance and the impact that I was able to make, and that there's real people that I'm affecting, on the other side here. Like people, you see views and likes, and sometimes you get comments, and they're usually from the same people. But like that kind of becomes all like, you kind of get numb to that a little bit
Right.
until you actually meet these people face to face, and you're like, holy cow, and they tell you their personal story, their testimony, and you're just like, wow, this is really. And that's what has kept me going all these years, because sometimes you get overwhelmed with life and business, and you're like, man, what am I doing this YouTube thing for? Like, it's not like I'm making money or trying to make money really out of this. Like, especially years ago, that wasn't a thing. So I'm just, I'm not the only one. I know a lot of guys, and I admit this, but they talk about it, off camera. It's like you get burned out
Oh yeah.
sometimes, and you just want to take a break or just stop altogether. And I know some guys who have. I know Spencer's Lawn Care took a break for like a little while and then came back, and he's, getting after it again, bigger and better than he was the first time. So
I don't,
we all go through that.
I follow them and watch a lot of their videos. Uh, Tip of the hat that they put out content almost every day.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that's like they've got like 4 different jobs going on.
yeah. Yeah, well, when you really get everyone connected all on the same page, like, Savannah, his wife, she's in the business with him,
Right.
so it makes it a lot easier. She understands everything. She's making the videos with him. She's holding the camera a lot of the time. I mean, they've just become it's everything's woven into their life,
Yeah.
so that it just works out really well for them. I mean, all the stuff that they do with their personal life, taking their kids to this practice and that practice, and this business and that business, and it's really woven in together. But yeah, I mean, but again, everyone gets burned out. And but when we have these conversations with other folks such as yourself, other industries, and go to different events and meet people live, that's what really keeps us going on the days that we're like, man, I'm just tired. Like I got to run my business, you
Right.
know?
Yeah, yeah. So talking about burnout, so, you said you've been doing podcast, over a year now. So is like year 6.5, 7 of doing lawn care and the YouTube, is that when you kinda burn out a little bit and say, "Well, let's look at different mediums and podcasting's, gaining traction, and I'd like to try that." What brought on the podcasting, or was it just the natural next step to your creative side?
Yeah, it wasn't about burnout or anything. It was the natural like evolution. Like over the years, every time there's something new that comes out, or just something new to our community or industry that kind of I stumble upon, or others stumble upon, or we all stumble upon, I always seem to be really in tune with all these different things. Like I'm always looking for new opportunities to connect with the community, with other people, to help other people connect with me and everyone else. Like I feel like that's where the leadership qualities that I've had over the years kind of come through, where like when I ran stores, people would look to me for tips or advice, or how do we tackle this problem? All right, we have this, new products came in that we have to set this huge, we have to redo the entire store, overnight. Like here's the plan, like blah blah blah. Like I've always been very observant, very insightful, whatever. Like so I think that's a natural quality of mine. So with the social media and the community aspect, I've always, when live streaming became a thing with Periscope back in the day, I was like, oh, this is a fun, interesting thing. Like this would be cool to do that at the GIE, and then people that couldn't come could see live feeds
Right,
of it, and they could ask questions. Hey, can you go to the Toro booth? Yeah, yeah. Can you, show me this and that?
right.
Yeah. Super cool way, in my opinion, to connect. And that was the main premise of that. And then that took off into a whole nother thing. Like everybody, Blake was like, that's a cool idea. And with B&B Lawn Care, and everyone just started periscoping all the time. And then we met new people from periscoping from other industries like ponds and construction. And then they became part of our community, and friends and all that. And that grew. So all these different things would come up like that. That's just one of many examples. And like Snapchat, I created a group, like a mastermind group, a whole bunch of people I found on Snapchat that were all over other social medias that I got to know over the years. And then Snapchat just created groups years ago. And I was like, this is cool. Let me, see how this works. And just added a whole bunch of people that I thought were all different people, like Paul Jameson for one, all these different people that I knew from different avenues. I thought it'd be cool to put them all together. I don't know where I came up with how and why. They all wanted to know how I came up with putting them all together, but it worked. I
Right.
created this mastermind group of all these different people that were in the same general line of work, industry, or adjacent, like ponds, complementary industries. And we all like became best friends and talked all the time through Snapchat. And so throughout the years, I would find stuff like that. And couple of years, 2018 was when I had a YouTube series called Get to Know the Pro, where I would literally travel around the country, and I would go to different people's shops and spend a day with
Yeah.
them, or sometimes 2 days with them, like a weekend, half a day and a half a day or something. And whether I would go watch them mow, or we'd have shop talk, always look at their setup, talk about their business. Sometimes we'd go, Top Notch and I, went to the driving range and hit some golf balls. Like we went fishing with B&B Lawn Care, like all that
Now
kind of
what
stuff, just to really go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I gotta jump in with you. Might need to raise my hand. When you were doing that little series, was that sponsored, or were you funding that yourself?
No, it was sponsored. Yeah. So I started doing it local with some of the guys locally, but then I found right around then was when big companies in our area, in our industry, started to recognize the importance and the value of
Right.
social media and marketing and influencer marketing and things like that, creating content. And they started connecting and having ambassador programs and all this kind of things like that. So through all that, I made some connections with some big brands like Echo. So Echo, who makes trimmers and
Yeah.
blowers and all kinds of chainsaws, all that kind of equipment, I reached out to them because I wanted to really make something of this. I wanted to get like a good 20 something episodes out of it. Like I don't remember what the whole theme was, what my original idea was, but I wanted to get more than just a handful of local people. I wanted to really get some of the big names out there, as well as some of the other people that had good stories that shared with me over the years, but they don't have like a big audience or any audience. They just follow me and other people. But I'm like, they still have a good story. I would really love to share. If they want to share it, I have a platform to share their story that might inspire others. Like one of the guys that I met over the years that I went to. This is just one quick example. I went, well, one guy got over depression. So that's a popular, like a common thing over the winter depression for a lot of guys in our industry, because it slows down and, all that. There's a whole thing that, so that was a video, and that a lot of people commented, wow, thanks, I needed to hear this, or I've been struggling with this too, I didn't know what to do. It's like the videos reach the right people, right? So another example was someone that was addicted to drugs and alcohol, and he was in rehab constantly, in and out of rehab. And the last time he went to rehab, he checked himself into rehab because he got robbed, like at his house. They running drugs out of his house, or out of the house that they were at, and he got robbed, right? Like, that's unfortunately a common thing. There's a lot of crazy stuff that happens when you're doing things like that. So he got robbed at gunpoint. Someone took all their drugs, all their money, and he could have died right then and there. And they could have just shot them after they robbed them, right? But they didn't. And he was like, I'm done. Like, I need to check myself back into rehab. Like, I almost lost my life. And then this rehab program had, I guess, one of the ways they make money is they would mow lawns, like commercially, some different commercial things. So they would have a crew of like the best rehab people, like, the ones that were, straight for a while and
Right.
whatever, reliable. And I guess one of the driver relapsed. So he couldn't drive anymore because he, got back to drugs or whatever. So they need a new driver. So they asked Chris if he could drive, and he was like, yeah, sure. And he went and he drove the truck, got to the property, pulled the cord on the mower, and fell in love immediately. He was like, man, and he literally said in that video, lawn care saved his life,
That's
because he's
awesome.
ever since then, he's started his own company, and he's been growing like crazy, and has a nice sized company in North Carolina. Has been sober this whole time. This is what, probably 10, 15 years ago. Like, he's just been killing it. So I really wanted to find inspirational stories. I wanted to share inspirational stories. Like, he already shared that with me personally. And I'm like, man, I gotta go to you and make a video and show your setup and your humble beginnings and where you are now and all that. So anyway, I did that for 20 some odd episodes over the course of 1 year in 2018.
Holy
And
cow.
Echo sponsored it. Yeah, Echo sponsored. I flew all over the place, and I got multiple people in different towns, because there's a lot of people that live in the same towns, believe it or not. So over the years, I discovered that, met a lot of people. So I thought to myself, at the end of the season, what's the next evolution? Is there going to be a season 2? Am I going to just keep doing this? Like finding more people, and which I could do that, or should maybe I can do a podcast. So back in 2018 was when I first thought about the podcast. Like, maybe I can make like a best of, and like, because a lot of people would talk about similar things, like work-life balance, and how to leave their full-time corporate America job to start their full-time lawn care. Like, those were some common themes with a lot of people that I interviewed and made these videos. So I was like, maybe I could just take the audio from a bunch of those, and which I did in the beginning of this podcast, the LCR Media podcast. I did a couple episodes like that. But I thought about doing that, and then interviewing some new people without having to go, out there to see them or whatever. But I just never did it, because at the time I was super busy. Paul didn't even have a podcast yet. Paul Jameson with the Green Industry Podcast, huge podcast, huge following, one of the top podcasts, top 100 podcasts in the world all the time, like constantly, for business entrepreneurship. He's got lots of books, just a great influential leader in our industry now, who came from humble beginnings as well, and has told his story many times. Had a lawn care business, was in radio, all these great experiences, and he wanted to start a podcast. And we all motivated him. The group that we were in, that I created in Snapchat, we were all like, yeah, start a podcast. He asked about it. We're like, dude, I know you love lawn care. forget this lawn care thing and go all in for podcasting, because that's where it's at, man. You have the gift of gab, you've got the radio voice, you've got the connections,
Right.
you've got the equipment and the radio studio. Like, go for it, man. Like, this could be something big for you. Like, go for it. Like, if you're passionate about it, totally. And Caleb Allman with Allman Landscapes, he was another one of those in that group, and he also,
Is his show the Kid Contractor?
yes, the Kid
Yeah.
Contractor podcast. Yep.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
started a podcast recently too. So, but he was pushing Paul to do it too. We were all in the same friend group, mastermind group. So anyway, Paul was starting his podcast, but hadn't started it yet. So I'm like, man, if Paul hasn't even figured it out yet, I'm not going to try and go through. I'm just going to like put that on the back burner. So it was always part of my plan as a next evolution of creating content for everyone, and also just for myself to have something fun to do and to keep creating content instead of just always making YouTube videos and Instagram posts. It was just a new thing. So a new thing for me, and a new thing for our industry. Really, podcasting has been around for a long time,
Right.
but it's kind of getting another boost, right? It's like another wave for our industry and everywhere, right? Joe Rogan and all these people. I mean, it's a huge wave now of podcasting again. So fast forward to a year ago, and things, Paul had been doing it for a couple of years. Brian started doing it. Brian Fullerton with the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast.
Well, we lost you.
Sorry, I got a phone call came. Should have put that disturb on. My bad.
No worries.
Anyway, there was a couple other podcasts at the time that were just starting up. Paul had been doing it, and that's when I was like, well, now there's something to, there's a little bit of a blueprint now. Maybe I can, have a better go at it. And Mr. Producer became a thing as well, who we all know in our industry has been the behind the scenes person for the
So
Green
this is a
Industry
real
Podcast.
guy. Mr. Producer's a real guy.
He's a real guy. He is a real guy. Yeah.
I have been consuming so much of and I've told you this before. I've kind of immersed myself in y'all's world, and really admire and enjoy what you guys do is giving back. But I keep hearing Mr. Producer, Mr. I'm like, is this guy real?
Yeah,
or is it one of the guys that wears many hats?
That's what people think all the time, but it's that's what people have thought. But no, Mr. Producer is real. He's a real sound engineer. He's actually the assistant general manager of the radio station that Paul had worked for many years, and that's
Down
how he
in Georgia.
Yeah, that's how he knew Mr. Producer. And eventually he asked if he could help. Paul asked him if he could help him with this podcast, because he's a sound engineer. Like, he's been doing that his whole life. He's also does professional voiceover work for like 20 years. Like, he's been in the industry forever, for over 20 years. He's the real deal. So yeah, he's the real deal. So if anyone knows about audio, it's Mr. Producer. So his side hustle is producing our podcast. It's becoming a full-time job for him now, but he already has a full-time job at the radio station managing that. So, but anyway, so him being involved made it easier for me too. I realized, well, if he's doing a lot of the work for me, then maybe I can make this work. Because it's all about managing my time, and I don't want to add more things on my plate and be overwhelmed. I wanted to create more content in a new way. I wanted to podcast. I think it's a great forum for a lot of reasons, but I didn't want to add more to my plate. So that's why back originally in 2018, I was like, this is too much. I'm not going to go, Paul hasn't even had figured out yet. I'm not going to deal with this. So, but now it's all, now there's podcasting equipment that we have that's very remote. We don't need to have all these big clunky things in a fixed studio that you have to always be in. Now you have all these portable podcast boards that keep coming out over the last couple of years, because it's becoming, like I said, there's a huge wave now. It's a new trend. So everyone wants to podcast. Right. Little tiny things that you can, stick in your backpack with a headset and a mic and just podcast from anywhere. So it's really become a lot easier of a process. So that's why I jumped into it finally last year. But I did think about it back in 2018. It was the long way to answer your question.
All right. Well, I know that you have already shared a lot of time with us today. Couple of closing questions here for you. So, on your podcast, are you industry focused, or do you have a mixed bag of content, maybe more around entrepreneurship as a whole, or what really is your format?
Yeah, so it's really industry, it's industry related, lawn and landscape. But I say in this description of it, anything entrepreneurial. So if I can find other stories, other entrepreneurs out there, then I will definitely have them on the show. But it has been more lawn and landscape related, even if it's folks such as yourself that are not in the lawn and landscape field, but you offer knowledge and services that can potentially help the lawn and landscapers as well as many other service related industries. I like to have those stories also on the podcast. But kind of above and beyond that, like real estate agents and accountants and bankers and all these other types of businesses and entrepreneurs out there, I've been wanting to get them on my podcast. And this the place that I'm at now, called Gather, it's a shared workspace that you can rent an office every month, or just have a membership if that's all you want, and then you have access to all the facilities like this podcast studio. There's a lot of networking opportunities here, so a lot of people here. There's hundreds of people that have offices here. There's 2 floors full of offices, so there's a lot of opportunities to get more people on my podcast. And I thought about that too, and I probably will. But it's like, how do I really, I don't want, it's like with YouTube, you don't want to have too many different things, too many different themes on your YouTube channel. That's why a lot of people get big and they'll create another YouTube channel that's maybe a spin-off and has other type of content. So you're not having too many people, you know what I mean? Your
Yeah.
subscribers,
Yep.
you want to keep it focused. YouTube doesn't even know what to do with your channel. At one point, if you get too crazy all over the place, it doesn't know who to recommend your videos to because you're all over the place. So you got to try and start, streamlining that. Podcasting, it's probably not like that from an algorithm standpoint,
Right.
but from a listener standpoint, they probably want to, if they're tuning into your podcast, they want to know what they're tuning into.
Right.
And if it's all listener. So with all that being said, some opportunities have come about to co-host a podcast, a new podcast here. I've helped put it together, start it from scratch, get Mr. Producer involved, and help manage a podcast in its infancy and be the co-host of the podcast, where our focus is every entrepreneur, every business, in starting with local, our local area. But I mean, accountants, bankers. There's a boat club, local boating club. So we're going to go down there and get some content there, maybe on a boat, in the summer, some
Right.
cool stuff there.
Yeah.
Just really have a good time, unique experiences, getting all these different people. I mean, there's business coaches that work out of here that we want to get on, life coaches, all kinds of, magazine publisher is the one who's my other co-host that's created this podcast. He owns a couple of different magazines in the area. So, I mean, there's just so many stories out there, and a lot of it is still related, right? We're all running businesses. We all have customer service issues. We all have business issues. We all have a lot of similar strengths and weaknesses that we can share and learn from each other. So I didn't want to have necessarily all that on my podcast. So I think it'll be a great new forum to have a totally separate podcast to get people to go to if they want to have more of a broader entrepreneur audience and stories to listen to.
So since we're ending on the podcast, what if somebody out there watching this would like to start a podcast? What are 2 must-do things?
Well, you have to really make sure like, why are you doing the podcast? Like, are you trying to, like, there's 2 main reasons to have a podcast. One, you just think it's fun. You want to share content. You want to talk about stuff. It's just like something fun and to do. 2, the other one is you're marketing something. You're marketing yourself, your brand. You're trying to sell something. You're trying to make money. You're trying to create a business from the podcast or promote a business that you already have through the podcast. Like, it's a marketing tool. It can be both, but you just got to figure out what that is and who's going to be listening to this podcast. And then that will guide you to creating the podcast properly, coming up with a name that makes sense, for the people that you want to listen to it, a thumbnail, and then obviously the content should just be, you're probably already going to know what kind of content you're going to want to
Right.
put out, but you got to know some of those other key things so that people listen to it, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
and if you just want to go on Anchor and make a free podcast, that's what Anchor is, a site, a free platform where you just use all of their stuff. You just need a mic, whether that's your laptop onboard mic from your laptop or your phone, which they're all pretty good. But if you have a relatively inexpensive external mic, I mean, there's so many mics out there nowadays that are like 30-40 bucks, on Amazon, that are give you really good sound. You plug it into whatever device, and at least you get better audio quality than just whatever is on your phone or laptop. And then you can record it all right on Anchor, and then they do all the rest for you and distribute it all everywhere. But again, you still need to have a name for your podcast, a general theme, and who you want your listeners to be, and figure that out sooner than later, if not before you even get started. So, and then you can just do it through there.
Now, finally, where can people find you?
The easiest way is to just Google LCR Media or Lawn Care Rookie. Either one of those will bring you all kinds of stuff. If you go on YouTube and you type in LCR Lawn Care Rookie, you'll find my channel immediately. But if you, I'm on all platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat. I haven't been on there in a while, but I'm still on there. Twitter, I've been on there a while, but I'm on there. YouTube, obviously, podcasts. So like anything that's pretty much mainstream. I know there's things popping up. I just started TikTok a little while ago, just to check it out, just to see, just to see like what I've been hearing some things from some of my peers and mentors that just got on it, and they're like, man, it's not all about just teenagers and all that stuff. Like you can actually get, reach some people here, and the algorithm's a lot different. And
Yeah.
they spent the time that they spent getting a following on Instagram, they can do it in a fraction of the time on TikTok, just based on the algorithms and how it flows. I'm like, all right, that sounds interesting. Let me give it a shot. So I'm all over the place. That's why I say the easy. I mean, I'm everywhere, it seems like. So the easiest way is just to Google LCR Media, the Lawn Care Rookie, and you'll see all the stuff that I'm on.
Good deal. Even better yet, I will post all of Naylor's links in the description of this video.
It's gonna be a lot of links.
Might take a while to get this video up. But
well, you can always go to my link tree on Instagram.
Oh yeah, just copy that.
Yeah, you just copy my link tree and put that on there, and then it's got everything on there.
Hey, there you go. That was a good thought. Well, Naylor, thanks a million for sharing this time with us and the stories. Just really thankful for it all.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You got it. Anytime. Hopefully in another year, we'll be back talking again. But thanks again, and we'll talk soon.
All right.
See you guys.